Alright, so here we are in an endgame. And what is very important in endgames are also like forcing moves such as checks and captures, but also very often it's about passed pawns, especially in pawning games. And as we see here, we can trade down into a pawning game. Now, if we are in a pawning game, the first thing we should consider is pushing our pawns. So let's see. Let's say we trade the queens. The first move we should consider is the move h4. You want to try to push your pawns up the board as quickly as possible because black has a majority over here and create a passed pawn as well. So it's going to become a race. Let's see whether we win that race. So let's say we trade, black recaptures. So let's say we go h4. Black can go here, we go h5. Black can capture this pawn over here because now black has his own passer. But let's have a look. So we go h6, black goes b4, we go h7, b3. We queen, and this black pawn is still over here. Black has not queened yet. Black can play the move b2, try to queen on the next move, but there are plenty of techniques to stop that pawn. And we might go over that later, but for now we see that we have a queen, our opponent has not, so we can assume that we win the game. Alright, and if black tries to create the pass pawn in another way, by let's say going b4, h5, a5, h6, a4, h7, b3, once again we queen first. So that's got to be the right continuation. Let's trade the queens and now push our pawn up the board. So we go here, we keep pushing the pawn, we push, and we make a new queen. So we win. Alright, very good stuff. Alright, now once again, let's do a quick material count. So black has a queen, 2 rooks, and a bishop. We have a queen, 2 knights, and a rook. So black has a rook versus a knight advantage. However, do we have any checks? Alright, we have to move queen takes f7, and once again, this is a move that should always, come to your mind if this king is uncastled and is on e8. If we can capture on f7 and that queen is protected. Well, it's not checkmate right away, because this king can still move over here, right? So then the question is, do we have a follow-up? Well, we don't have any good checks with the queen, right? All the squares are covered. So then we still have this knight over here, right? The knight is very far advanced. Do we have a follow-up check with the knight? Well, we have knight e6 check. The king is forced to move over here. It's the only square. And once again, do we have a follow-up? Well, we have to move queen to c7, which is another very important pattern to keep in mind. If the king is on the back rank and we can move and we can put the queen right in front of its face, so to speak, and that queen is protected, it's generally checkmate. So we want to keep that pattern in mind. So let's go queen takes f7, knight e6, and as you guys can see, they are becoming a little bit more advanced. They are still, checkmates, but in a couple more moves. Thanks Joseph for the 14 months. So queen c7, and we win. Alright, let's keep going. So here, once again, do we have a checkmate? Well, we saw in the last puzzle, if we can put this queen right in front of the king's face, it's checkmate. So queen g7, the queen is covered by the bishop. Black doesn't have a defender, so we win. g7, okay, we keep going. Now here, once again, the king is on e8. We see this bishop on c4, the queen on d5. We have this battery, so we can go queen f7. Black cannot capture the pawn. The king also cannot escape, so we win by checkmate. Queen f7. All right, let's do another quick material count. So we see that black has a queen, 2 rooks, and 2 bishops, and we have a queen and 2 rooks. So we're down 2 bishops. We could take over here, but then we're still down 1 bishop, so that does not seem good. Once again, the first thing we should look for in every position are checks. So we have queen takes c7, right, because our rook guards our queen. The king only has 1 square, which is to go here. Do we have a follow-up? Well, we have queen takes b7. The king is in the corner, and generally when the queen is cornered, especially from that close, it is checkmate because king simply has nowhere to go. So let's go here and checkmate, and we keep going. Alright, so here, since we solved that last one, we can solve this one pretty much automatically. And once again, this is why puzzles are so important. Like every grandmaster from a very young age has solved a lot of puzzles, so that's why we are able to spot these patterns in literally just a fraction of a second. And here we see that we have queen takes f2. Once again, we want to look for checks. We put the queen very close to the enemy king. The king has to move here or here, and then we once again have queen takes g2. The rook is protecting the queen on f2 and also on g2, so it's checkmate. So let's keep going. So let's give a check, and here, and we win. Alright, so let's have a look at this one. Let's once again do a quick material count. So we see that white has a queen, 2 rooks, 2 bishops and a knight. We have a queen, 2 rooks, a bishop and a knight. So we're down a bishop. So we see though, however, that this king is slightly exposed, right? We have this queen and knight over here that are very close to the enemy king. Can we somehow make use of that? So we start looking for checks. Now the one check that comes to mind is queen a1. It looks like checkmate, but white can still block with the knight. Do we have a follow-up check there? Well, we have to move knight to a2, and white is checkmated because his king is blocked in by its own pieces. So once again, that's why you always want to look for checks. So queen a1 check, knight e2, and we win. Alright, let's keep going. So here, let's do once again a quick material count. White has 2 rooks and a bishop. We have 2 rooks. So we're down a bishop here. However, the first thing that we should see here is that the king doesn't have a lot of squares. Right, this rook on f2 is taking away the squares on g2 and h1. So we immediately start thinking, is there a way to attack the king? Right, and we have the move rook e1, which is actually a ladder checkmate. A pattern that, you know, you should be familiar with. You know, one of the very first checkmating patterns I recommend you familiarize yourself with if you are a beginner. So let's go rook to e1 and we checkmate our opponent. Alright, so once again, so let's see here. Let's do a quick material count. White has a queen, a rook, and a bishop. We have a queen and a rook, so we're down a bishop. So we start looking for something that could be checkmate potentially. And we see that we have to move queen to g2. Once again, that's why we always look for checks. And once again, if we put the queen in the king's face, so to speak, and the queen is protected, it's generally checkmate. White also cannot capture the queen, so queen g2 wins the game. Alright, and we move on to a rating of 800. So that concludes another part of the puzzle speedrun.